Hello, everybody. Welcome to IDAGIO Live. I want to give you a little help to listen to Gustav Mahler's first symphony. And then every week we will talk about another symphony. A first symphony is a very important occasion in a composer's life. Why? Because it's a big thing to write a symphony. And Mahler also is one of them who wrote songs, and he was, of course, a famous conductor, but the first symphony must have been a festive occasion. And naturally, there are ideas already in the mind, and those ideas pop up in the symphony. So a first symphony by nature is most of the time a collection of earlier ideas. And in Mahler's case, many of his songs appear, many of his memories, childhood memories, and other impressions which came to him, they are all in this first symphony. Now, how does it start? Now, let's see. First of all, he wants to write something about the awakening of nature. So it has to start from nowhere. How can you compose a nothing? The nowhere. The silence before the work, and then as it starts. So he starts with the note A, very, very softly. This is still nothing. It's just one note held for a long time. Then one instrument adds this note E. The E is the closest note to the A in the overtone system. Still, it feels a little empty. Other instruments play the E. And then out of this, he builds a chain of this interval, the fourth. But he has to add one note to turn it into a melody. But when this new note appears, he hovers a little bit, he waits. Suddenly there is something coming back like a little military signal. Maybe a childhood memory or something, but it's not even clear. It's just something which is blown here by the wind, a little bit unclear. We continue with this nothingness. And then gradually he starts one of his songs, which is this Ging heut morgen übers Feld. I go out to the nature in the morning. It's full of optimism. It's one of his earlier songs, so again a quotation. Out of this he builds the first movement. And this first movement slowly, very gradually develops. And from this song, it becomes a symphony. It becomes the first movement of a symphony. What you should hear when you listen to it, try to observe the gradual awakening. Give yourself a little time when you listen to it. So you don't expect something too turbulent, too early. Very slow awakening in the morning. It's so beautiful because it's very, very natural. And because Mahler has this contact to nature, it feels very honest. So the first movement will be about nature awakening in the early morning. And that will lead us to the second movement. You remember the notes, how he started the first, and with the same notes, he does something completely different in the second movement. But this has a different character. It's full of energy, fast and loud, so it's... And then on top of it, the violins have a bit of, wow, come on, white day. So it's like full of life and useful energy. And then the melody grows out of this. What does he write? When earlier Mahler wanted to describe his movements, he wrote the lines there with open sails. So there is a lot of wind and there is a boat almost flying forward with this youthful energy. It has a fantastic level of energy in the whole movement. And suddenly it stops and we are somewhere else. And then we have a little trio. We call trio is a middle section of usually a dance movement, a movement of dance music. And where does this trio take us? This is unmistakably Viennese. Mahler lived in Vienna later in his life. It was all one country. At this time he was still in Budapest, but it was the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And there are these cafes in Vienna, these very gemütlich, cozy cafes. And this is what we hear, this. This music isn't really classical music. It's not something serious, you know. The composers around Mahler wrote very serious music, Brahms, Bruckner, and the whole generation. Now, how is it possible that this young man has the courage of putting sort of cafe music, this almost Schrammel music, something extremely sort of entertaining, light music in the middle of a symphony? It has a little tradition. It was, for example, Schubert did something similar, but not as extreme as this, to put in light cafe music in the middle of a symphony. But Mahler had a very, very complicated, ambivalent relationship to Vienna and to the Austrians in general. Being Jewish, being born in Bohemia, which was part of the empire, he was in it, but he was also a little bit an outcast. At the time, Mahler had a love-hate relationship with Vienna, and we hear it everywhere in his symphonies, because it has so much desire and beauty. I mean, just as the theme comes back, just this note, this G sharp, has so much desire in it. And still, we are in a cafe in Vienna. This is his country. This is his patriotic feeling with a lot of pain. Then, at the end of the second movement, naturally, as in the orderly classical form, the energetic music with the open sills will come back. Now this leads us to the third movement. Mahler must have had many ideas from his early childhood. I mean, you all know this song of whichever country you come from, you have it in your language. Now it goes on this bass of but then something happens, turns into minor, it's better. Then he adds one note. Now he has a melody. But it's still this childhood song. And what is this bass line? He used it earlier, for example, in a song. Ich bin ausgegangen in tiefe Nacht. Is the wandering. And this is what we hear now. It will go through the whole orchestra in various instruments. And then a beautiful transition. He hovers a little. What shall he do now? I don't think he was really thinking. He suddenly had an idea which popped into his mind. Maybe a Jewish folk song or something. He writes with parody because it becomes a lot of fun. Do you remember the first movement? There were also these notes. Then even birds came in the first movement. And here comes back again. Unmistakably Yiddish folk song style, which is part of Mahler somewhere deep down. Of course, he converted to Catholicism, but this is the childhood memory which came up in that moment. Then another episode happens. It jumps from one memory to the other one. Song, it's one of his earlier songs, but it feels a little bit like Schubert. He didn't shy away from quoting or writing in the style of somebody else. So Mahler was always immediately accused that he steals, that he doesn't have his own style. He writes a kind of mix of eclectic anything. And I think it's true. I think Mahler's art form was a very honestly the way he was. He was a conductor. He was a musician who had to deal with many different styles of music, including his own. And this was whirling around in his mind and came into his symphonies. like this little song which sounds like Schubert. Then he ends with this this is also a quotation of an earlier song. Die zwei blauen Augen von meinem Schatz, die haben mich in die Weite. So I feel that Mahler simply composed almost whatever was dictated to his unorganized mind. The mind accepted the memories and it went on the paper and it became a symphony. Then we hear again this, you remember? And that will end the third movement. The last movement is magnificent. It has a concept, and the concept originates from Beethoven. Beethoven invented this art form of tragedy leading to jubilation. From the hell to paradise, a journey from the worst experience to the most magnificent one. This is in Beethoven's 5th Symphony, 9th Symphony. This is the new vision, what a symphony should be. And Mahler composed it in his final, magnificent, grand movement. And then at the end, it's pure jubilation. In this moment, incredibly loud orchestra, something which has never been heard before, must have caused a riot at the first performance. He even writes that the horn players should stand up and overshine everybody with their melody. Simple, but do you remember how he started the symphony? And now, so despite this eclectic mix, what Mahler writes, there is a fantastic sense of structure, that something similar starts and ends this incredible symphony. Now, I was told that you can ask questions. You have a link here below, and you see that you can comment. And if you want to write questions to me, then I receive it on my phone. I don't know if anybody has already sent me something, but you're welcome to send questions. Oh, I've got something here. Now, let's see. The question is, the first version of the symphony has one more movement with the poetic name Blumine. Can you tell us something about that? It's true, a very knowledgeable member of the audience. At the first performance, there was one more movement. A beautiful, lyrical, almost sentimental little piece with a beautiful trumpet solo. It just starts with a trumpet plays it. A very lyrical, lovely little jewel. Why did Mahler drop it from his symphony? I think it appeared a little too sentimental to him. And Mahler, on one hand, is extremely emotional. That's why we love him. But he doesn't want to go over a certain limit. He writes very often, don't be sentimental. He writes it as an instruction to us musicians. And he cut this movement because I think it appeared to him a little bit over that line of control. Now let's see if you have another question. Yes, for the first symphony, Mahler has written an extensive literary program. Surely a helpful guide for the auditorium, also for you as a conductor, or do you feel too tied down? It helps, yes, it helps. When composers write words about their ideas, you will see, for example, in the third symphony, it will be very important that Mahler told us what the ideas were behind the original programs. I find it helpful and not necessary in the same time, because it limits, it puts us into this very narrow understanding of what the music is all about. Maybe the original idea was there, like, for example, when he called the second movement with open sails. Yes, true, it helps to know, but I would advocate that try to listen to the symphony without those little helping verbal sentences. Now, I urge you to listen to the whole symphony, Mahler's wonderful first symphony. If you click here below on the link, you will hear my performance with the Budapest Festival Orchestra. We gave a lot of attention and care to make a wonderful recording of this masterwork. And enjoy. This was IDAGIO Live this week. I will see you next week with the second Resurrection Symphony. Goodbye.